Okay. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Log out. You log out. Okay, and hmm? Oh.
All right.
Good.
Just for people.
I didn't have that issue. That's interesting. Are you make a new are you able to log out and make a new account? No, it's don't worry. Nothing's happening right now, don't worry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hello.
Because I see everyone muted.
Hello, testing.
Hello, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, perfect.
Check. Let me see.
All right. So can everyone hear me? Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. So first, I wanted to welcome you to the sessions for Introduction on Python. And I'd like for you guys to present yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, keep it short, but like basically who you are and why did you want to start learning programming or join the session, and your experience with programming in general. So we're gonna go, I'm guessing like from left to right. So I guess malibumango would be the first one to start then. I hope we all have the same list, but
We don't have the same left to right, so you just have to say who goes
oh,
after.
okay. Well, so malibumango would be the first one.
Yeah, okay, I can start. I'm studying science, computer science, and yeah, I'm just kind of into Java, and I just wanted to learn another language, so that's why I'm here.
Okay. So if you already have experience with programming languages, it's still going to be a useful course, but it's probably going to feel a little slow to you because it's mostly tailored to people who have really zero experience. But still, feel free to join in the sessions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I just joined just because the session isn't full, so I'm into it. If someone wants to join and the session is full, I'm gonna get out.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay, so frozen sandwich.
Hello. Sorry, can you hear?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just wasn't used to the mic. I'm currently studying earth science. So the prior experience I've had with programming was mainly in high school, and so I'm, I guess, trying to pick it up again with Python.
Okay, perfect. Anyways, like you don't. Also, another thing is that this is really like an introduction to programming. So even if you want to do like programming as a hobby or professionally or for any reason whatsoever, it's going to be a good course for you.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
All right. So then, Adam.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
All right, cool.
So I mean, present yourself. Like, why do you want to join this session and learn programming?
Oh, I just wanted to check this out because I've been programming for a bit and I don't know, I wanted to see if I could learn anything.
Okay. So if you, like I said, if you have any experience, it's going to be a bit relatively easy for you. But still, I think it's good, especially if you want to learn a new language or something. So.
Yeah, hopefully later on in the course you'll learn something useful, something maybe you haven't seen before. But yeah.
All right. So Senzi.
Yep. My name is Iman or Iman, however you're comfortable with. I just got done with school studying C# and C++, mainly for game dev, I'm sorry. Then I just wanted to give it a go for a new language because it never hurts.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also good to learn all types of programming languages. So you can switch from one to the other quite nicely.
For sure.
All right. So Zugarfot. I don't know if that's correct.
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So hello. I'm Zuk. I'm gonna call myself Zuk here. So I'm a second-year university student studying computer science, and they mostly teach us in Java there. And because I had to simultaneously work and study, and now I'm a bit off with the programming. and now I just wanted to try a new language from the basics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man. All right. Validus. Validus, can you hear me? All right. Well, we'll skip him and maybe come back to him
You
later.
might need to unmute. He's muted.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't think he has a mic because even if I click unmute, it doesn't work. Okay, so Bianca, if you want to.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. I guess I was just invited by a friend. I have no idea, no background on coding.
Mhm.
Yep. And it seems interesting.
All right.
Technology is in our favor. Yeah, so.
All right, sounds good.
Yep.
Did I miss anyone? Then we'll get to the instructors as well for the introductions.
Hello, I am Roop. I am Bianca's friend, and I'm the one who invited her here. I've done 2 years of computer programming at college. I've mainly learned and understand C++. I'm learning Java right now, as well as React and like Angular. And I've been wanting to get into Python to make a bot, Discord bot, as well as learn of the backend framework. But I've been not going so well, so I thought start from the basics of learning here.
Okay, all right. Sounds good, man. Sounds like a plan. All right, Jav, I think. Don't remember if you presented yourself. Okay. So now we can present the instructors. So Con, I guess. Con.
Yeah, sure. Is my sound okay? Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Koan. My name's also, you can call me Chris. I just finished up with my undergraduate degree in computer science, and now I'm working full-time as a software developer in Chicago. Most of my experience is in this area that's known as high performance computing, which is kind of, as it sounds, like making software run really fast and like really optimized. Kind of similar to how like games you want to be like really optimized so users there's no like lag or anything, kind of like that. With that, most of my experience then is in C++. That's kind of like the language of choice for a lot of high performance software. But in my degree, I did do a lot of Python programming.
8 minutes.
What's that? Hello?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I did do a lot of Python programming. I was also a teaching assistant for a couple different courses, so I have a decent amount of experience like helping students and those who are new to some of these concepts and getting them to understand some of the more complicated topics, especially. Yeah, so excited to be here and meet you all and help you guys out.
Okay, perfect, man. Sounds good. Validus, you were trying to say something? I think. Okay. So Senzi is going to be our TA for today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm a second year in university studying game development. So most of my experience is with C# and C++, and that sort of area. But yeah, just I kind of like helping people learn coding, kind of like just teaching it. So that's why I'm here.
All right. Perfect. And then if anyone wants to present themselves before I do my introduction. All right, so here I go. So you can call me Tipuk, Tipush, or however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, so I've been programming professionally for about like 6 years now. I'm working as a software consultant, mostly in the web development area. So I do everything from front end to back end to infrastructure, manage teams, help companies train their juniors and other things like that. So yeah, so I'll be teaching like the first part of the course, and in general I'll be trying to develop the material for the following sessions, obviously with the help of the other instructors. All right, so let's get started. So yeah, so first, programming in general, I think is a very useful tool, not only for professional programmers, but pretty much anyone who wants to be better at problem solving. In essence, programming takes complex real-world problems and try to simplify them and to get to the essence of the problems, and then make a solution for the computer to run. So computers are good at some things and like bad at some other things. And basically it's trying to take advantage of what computers are good at and we are bad at. For example, like statistics, calculations, and general menial work is usually well done on computer. Also complex simulations and things like that. So today we'll start by learning about variables. So now I'll be sharing my screen to show you the online editor. So if you haven't opened yet the online editor, it's in the open session voice text channel on Discord. There's a link called Reckful.it. This is what you need to open. So I'll show you what it looks like in a second. All right. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm going to explain to you how it works. It's very simple. So basically, you type your code in this part, and the output of your program is going to be on the right part of the screen. And to run something, you click run. So it's basically going to be that. So it's pretty easy to use, and that's what we're using it, why we're using it. And you can write simple programs with it. So first and foremost, how to declare a variable in Python. So different languages have different ways of declaring variables, but for now we'll go with Python. So the first we have the name of a variable. So in our case, we'll start with something a bit familiar to you. So arithmetic, basically mathematics. So usually the variable we use is x. So x is basically a placeholder for a value. So when we name a variable, we try to give it a meaningful name to hold a specific value that has some kind of meaning. In our case, it would be x. And so then there comes the equal sign, which is basically assigning a value to a variable. And then the value itself. So value can be many things. First, it can be a number. In our case, it would be called like in this case, an integer. So it's a whole number. Both negative numbers and positive numbers are integers in programming. Then we can have a decimal number, which in programming in general are called floats. In Python, for example. And then we can have a string. So a string is delimited by quotes. So kind of a confusing part is that you can use both double quotes and single quotes to delimit a string, however you want. Usually, I try to stay consistent and use single quotes, so it's not too confusing for you. And then inside that, so a string is basically, how do you say that? Text It can be separated by space. So it could be like hello world, which is the classic one. By the way, if at any point you have any question whatsoever, feel free to ask them in the chat. Also ask you guys question like vocally later on. And also don't worry about it. We'll have exercises along the way, so you can test out everything I'm showing you now within the interpreter. And also feel free to follow along with the interpreter, so you can see for yourself what it does. And so for strings, it's basically words that can or can be one word or multiple words separated by a space or one letter or things like that. So these are what we call strings. And now if we want to see those values and what they look like, we can print them out. So if we do print open parenthesis, closing parenthesis, this is what we call a function. And this is, here we pass the variable, which is a placeholder for this value. And so when we do print x, it should print 10 on our screen, as we can see here. So this printing is very useful for understanding what are the values held by our variables as we run the program along, and also to display things to the user. So this is basically like, this is the basic what we call data types for different variables in Python. So far, do you guys have any questions on what is a variable?
I have two questions. One is that, do you need to declare the variable when you create it? So for example, do you need to say it's an integer or float or like double when you create the variable in Python, or you don't?
So so in other languages, you may need to, by the way, whoever said hello, we can hear you. So in Python, you don't need to declare the type of a variable when you declare that variable. You can, but you don't need to. Basically, it's most interpreted languages are more flexible with types than strictly typed languages like Java or C. And so you can just declare the variable and then assign a value to it. And inside the interpreter, it will know that it's an integer, a float, or a string.
Yeah, very nice. The other question is, do you need to end the line with like the double quotes or anything, or no?
Okay, so you don't need a semicolon to finish
Or
a line.
semicolon, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. You don't need a semicolon to finish a line. So every line. So one thing I didn't explain is these things here are what we call comments. So basically, everything behind a pound sign, do you understand pound sign? Is that the right way to say it?
Hashtag, you mean?
Hashtag, yeah. Everything after the hashtag is a comment, and so it's kind of things we write for other developers or ourselves that will not be executed by the program. So this to the program, it's like there's nothing there. It doesn't take it into account. I tried to take a look at the chat while I'm doing this. Okay. And so, yeah, and so these are comments. And so obviously you can put it after the code like this, or you can put it in on a new line. That's fine as well. And usually we use those to give information to ourselves or other developers while we are writing code. So that's a good way to do it. Any other questions on variables so far? All right.
Nope.
Okay. All right. So now comes the exercises for at least for this. What we like to do with our sessions is have Pokemon theme-based exercises, so that they're more fun in general and also easier to understand new concepts. So what I'd like you to do is to create a variable called my Pokemon or something. So usually in Python, when we have a variable that has multiple, like, how do you say that? like names or something. So words, sorry. So my Pokemon. You can't have spaces in the variable name. So what we do is we use underscore. That's kind of the common way to do it. So to have a variable my Pokemon, which would contain a string with your Pokemon name. So it could be Pikachu or like any other Pokemon you want. And then print it. So printing is done like this. And the way to declare a string is done like this. Yeah, so you asked for camel text. So there are multiple ways of formatting code. In Python, we use what we call snake case, which is basically like separated by, everything is in a lowercase and separated by underscore for variables at least. And if you want to know exactly what are the formatting rules in Python, you can check out something called PEP8. I'll write it in chat. If you Google that, you'll have all the rules, kind of like standard rules of writing code in Python. But for now, don't worry about it. Just write however you want it. Ideally copying me, but yeah, should be fine. By the way, so when you're done with exercise, you can use a function in Zoom called raise hand. So if you click on participants, yep. So if you click on participants and go on the top right, I think you have a button that says raise hand. And so when you're done with the exercise, you can raise your hand. So I know who is done with the exercise and who isn't.
Can we go over that one more time?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I see. How do you raise hand? Oh,
So
I see.
you
Okay,
click.
I found it.
Okay, perfect. So if you guys are done with exercise, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, just to let you guys know, the life of a programmer is basically a lot of bugs and a little bit of success. So don't feel bad if you have bugs. It's normal. Everyone has bugs. Even if you have if you are like an extremely experienced programmer, you're gonna have bugs, and so it's completely fine to have bugs. When you do have bugs, in our case, feel free to use the TAs or myself to help you with your bugs, so you can follow along with everybody else. So if you're having any issues whatsoever with your code, feel free to tell us. So I'll give you guys 5 more minutes to do the small exercise. And at any point, if you have any questions, feel free to. So how do I raise hand? So you go and you click on participants. And then on the top right, you should have a button that says raise hand. And also, even if you are done with the exercise, if you have any questions about variables or data types, feel free to ask.
I don't know if I was around when you're explaining how it prints on here, but I don't know how to print strings yet.
Okay.
How?
So yeah, I can hear you. So to print, you can look at line 5. So
yeah,
it's the keyword print, then open parentheses, then your variable name, then close parentheses.
Is it supposed to pop up on the right side of the interpreter?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not popping up. Maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Do you see anything at all on the right side?
Maybe
No,
click run. Did you try
Oh, wait, where's run?
Run is on top middle, like it's a green button.
Okay.
Did that work?
No, maybe I have a bug. Let me recheck it.
Okay.
Feel free to share your code as well if you can't figure it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can share it. I don't know if I've done something wrong.
Maybe. Do you have any errors that appear on the right side, or just nothing at all?
Nothing at all. I press run and it shows stop and nothing pops up.
Okay. What browser are you using right now?
Firefox.
Try it with Chrome and tell me if it works.
Oh, okay. Let me.
So can a data type be statically declared, or does it have to be dynamically interpreted, like how like in TypeScript? So no. So Python has what we call type hints. I won't go into it today, but if you want to look at that, it may be interesting to you. Otherwise, the way it works is that you declare the name of a variable, then the value, and the interpreter knows which type is assigned to that value. But you can't really have data type statically declared. You can use type hints though, but I'll just type it in chat. Type hints. You can look it up on Google. Oh, sorry, I'm whispering to Zephyrus. Type hints. If that interests you, but for now, this is basically it. So, okay.
Yeah, it helped using Chrome. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I see that most people are done. Chris, are you having any issues with the declaring a variable and printing it? Okay. Well, okay. So for now, we're gonna move on. So next. So I'm gonna show you how it works. So it's pretty simple. So here I can say Pikachu, for example. And then if I want to print that value, I just do print my Pokemon, and it should give us Pikachu. Okay, so this is basically how to declare a variable and printing it. Next, we're gonna see how to what we call cast a variable. So I told you that there were data types. Sorry. Now I'm gonna tell you how to change from one data type to another. In some cases, it can be useful. So, for example, if we want to convert from a decimal to an integer, we can do something like this. Yeah, just gonna say, for example, a equals, sorry, int, and then y. So here we use the name of a data type. So in Python, int is kind of like the shortcut for integer. Float for float, because there's no, for now there's no things like no shortcut, sorry. And str for string. So those are the functions that you're gonna use to convert something into that data type. So in our case, we want to convert y, which is a float, so a decimal number, into an integer, so a whole number. And we're gonna see what it gives us. So if we do that, it gives us 22. So converting a float into an int, it's not rounding, it's cutting. So there's no, it doesn't change. So if you want to round, there are actually methods for functions for it. But for now, we're just gonna see like data conversion, or what we call casting. So I just casting is changing from one type to another type. And so we can change from a float to an integer, but we can also change from an integer to a float. So now if we want to have a float, we can do something like this and see what it gives us. So you see here it does 10.0. So this is considered by the interpreter now as of type float. If you want to know the type of a variable, what you can do is print and then type and b. Just so you can see class float. So this here is the type of our variable. I'm just gonna know the type of a variable type. Oops, variable name. And lastly, to convert to a string. And you can try vice versa and like feel free to try like to convert different things into different types to see how it works. And so if we want to have this as a string, what we can do is do str of y. By the way, so this I'm storing inside the variable, but if you do this, it's basically the same thing as doing, oops. This, okay? Is that confusing to anybody, what I just did on line 2021?
No, it's okay.
All right, so you can basically replace directly with a value if you want. Anyways, so we're gonna see what it gives us. Gives us the same thing, but actually there's a difference in that the type of C is now a string instead of being a float. Right, class str. Str is a string. So that being said, do you guys get what I'm trying to do here?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. So this will be useful later on. It's gonna help you do operations with variables. If they are of different type, you can change the type and then be able to do the operation. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about in a second. So then we have what we call operators. So you say the blue side only does text. Can you print images? Well, yeah, there are functionalities to display images in Python, but this is a console. How do you say that? Output, and so basically you can only get text inside it, at least for this thing. Anyways, so operators. So operators, everyone's familiar with a calculator. So it's basically the same thing as a calculator. So you can use different signs to indicate different operations. So there's plus, there's minus. Well, actually, I'll break it down so it's easier. So this is addition, subtraction. By the way, English is not my first language, as you may have noticed. And so if I'm making any mistakes, feel free to let me know.
No, you sound fine.
All right. So division, then multiplication, and this is power of. All right, and so I'm gonna give you a quick examples. So if we do,
yeah, there's a modulus in
oh yeah, sure, yeah, right. Modulus is like, so it's like an Euclidean division. So you keep the rest. It gives you the remainder, I think. It's the right term. It gives you a remainder. There's also actually there's also this, which is division to an integer, I think, which is basically the Euclidean division. So you don't get, and I think that's all of them. Yep. So I'm gonna give you a quick example. By the way, we can redeclare variables. How do you say that? In other languages, there's a distinction between assigning a value to a variable and like declaring a variable, which is like the initialization process. In Python, there's not really that distinction. So you're just assigning values to variables. I mean, inside the interpreter there is, but for you guys, when you're writing code, there's no difference. So if you do, we can redeclare A, for example. So if we do A equals 1 plus 2, and then we print that, see that A equals 3. And obviously you can use all those operators with numbers to give you like all kinds of operations. And obviously you can use parentheses as well. So like if you want to do something like 1 plus 2 times 3, this will give you 9. So you can use parentheses as well. So do you guys get operators so far?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just math, more like more.
Yeah. The funny thing about operators is that you can not only use them with floats and integers, so decimal numbers and whole numbers, but you can also use them with strings. So you can't really do like division of strings and like multiplication of, well, I think you can do some stuff, but anyways, you can do additions of strings, which is basically what we call concatenation. I'm gonna show you what it means in a second. Adding two strings together. So if we have one string, let's say hello, and then we have world, which is world. Do it like that. And then we do this thing. By the way, we can print it, but we can also assign it to another variable, just showing you how it would look. Whoops. You can do something like this, right? And it will give you the whole string with first word, the space here, and then the second word. All right. So does everybody get the string concatenation?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So now exercise part. So we have our Pokemon, my Pokemon. You can redeclare it below if you want. And I'd like you guys to have a string that says print a string that would look like this. So in my case, it would be Pikachu, level, and then like 24, for example. And I would like you to use type conversion to convert an integer of 24. So I'll try to break it down for you. Declare level of the level of your Pokemon as an integer. Change it to a string. Whoops. To a string. And print the following. By the way, with the name and level of your Pokemon. Use your own Pokemon. Don't need to say Pikachu necessarily. And so I give you guys 10 minutes, maybe more if I see some of you struggling, but otherwise, should be fine. And of course, if you have any questions at any point or any bugs whatsoever, let me know. Also another thing, feel free to talk together in the chat if you want to help each other out with the exercise if you don't necessarily want to talk to the instructor directly. That's also fine.
Is it coming along okay for everyone? Does anybody have any questions so far?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, mine also came out right.
Nice.
I'm just figuring out how to change types. Sorry.
Whoop. So Iman, is it going all right?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Feel free to let me know when you're done. Yeah, with the raise hand stuff. Okay. So we're going to go over all the operators today then. Well, so these are all operators that you would use with numbers. And so I'm guessing you kind of know like what a division looks like, what a multiplication looks like. And so basically the way I'm doing it here, that would be the way you would use all of this. So if I wanted, I could do like power of 3, for example, for this. Would give me a different result, of course. It's 27. But these are pretty simple. The more like the trickier one, I guess, would be the modulo operator. This one is called modulo. But this is useful, for example, I think one classic use of modulo is when you have a number and you want to test if it's even or odd. You do modulo of 2, and then it gives you like either 0 or 1, depending. So if we have 21, give us 1. And so we can know you were talking more like so plus doesn't exist in Python. I'll show an equivalent. The double like pipe bars, they don't exist in Python either. You will see them in the second part of the course when we talk about comparisons and if statements, I guess. So a good use of modulo is to check if your number is even or odd. I think that's one classic use of it. But of course, it has multiple uses, especially if you're doing mathematical stuff. Not very good at math, so, but still. All right. Krimineko, are you good with the exercise? How is it going on? How is it going?
I was just having one error when I forgot a bracket, but it's working now. It's fine.
Okay.
Done.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, 100% done.
All right. Okay, so I'll move forward with the exercise. So I'll show you how you could have done it. Of course, it doesn't need to be exactly what I do, but it should be something along those lines, basically. So we have our Pokemon level, which would give it to 24. So that's an integer. So Pokemon level is now an integer. Then we can change it to a string. So str of Pokemon level. Or you could do that as well. That would work. So it's basically taking that value. So this is evaluated before this part. So we first look at the value and then we assign the value. So if you do that, it would take 24, put it as a string, and then assign it to Pokemon level. So Pokemon level would change. And print the following. And we print as Pokemon plus space level space plus our Pokemon level, and gives me a thing. And if I name Pokemon, what did I name? I Pokemon. Okay, right. Okay, and then it gives us this. So far, so good.
Yep.
All right. So let's continue. As you have seen, you can do things like this with plus. But there's a cool thing that when you want to add onto something, like for example, so if I have a equals 1 and I want to add 1 to a, you could say a plus equal 1. So this thing here means this. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as this. So it means we're taking the value of a, adding 1 to it, and then reassigning that to a. Okay. And so for the question of a++, this is how you would do it in Python. I think it exists also in Java. It's just the shortcut ++ doesn't exist. Yeah. So and this you can repeat for any operator. Okay. So it's not just plus. You can do it with minus. You can do it with multiply. You can do it with all of these, basically. Maybe not modulo, but I'm not even sure. So, but in any case, you can do that. All right. All right. So now that we know this, I'd like you guys to have, now that you have your Pokemon name and then your Pokemon level, I'd like you guys to have your Pokemon health. So declare variable your Pokemon health. Oops. And inflict damage to your Pokemon and display the health before and after damage taken. All right. So when I say display, it means print, basically. And I'd like you guys to use that notation for this exercise. So instead of doing to change the health, basically, to do the health variable equals the health variable minus something something, I'd like you guys to use minus equal there. So of course, like I said, you can use plus equal, but you can also use minus equal. That would work as well. Times equal, etc., etc. All right, so I give you guys 10 minutes. All right, so Con says you can do it with modulo, so I guess, yeah, any operator would work. Modulo is this thing here, this one, percentage sign. Gives you the remainder of an Euclidean division, if you remember what that is. And of course, as always, let me know when you're done with the raise hand feature. And if you're having any issues, let me know. Also, if you're having any questions in the meantime, feel free to ask away.
We can just show the health with a random letter variable.
Usually, I'd like you guys to try to have variable names that are explicit, so you know what they're referencing. So for example, in that case, you could have like something like Pokemon health or something like that, so you know what that variable stands for.
Hey, just a question.
Yeah.
So if I want to print like max health equals like the variable of the health.
Yep.
Do I need to change to string to print and then
Yes.
change to int to do the damage and then change to string again? So like print again?
Yeah, one thing you can do to avoid all that switching is to, when you print, to call the str stuff.
Okay, so
'Cause
right
that-
when I
Yeah,
see.
so important point, that thing will not modify the variable it's using, okay? So this will only give you like a new value with the changed variable, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so you can, when you print, you can use str. So Zugarfot, are you okay with the exercise so far?
Yeah, I stumbled upon an issue, but I managed to fix it. So yeah. I'm good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we can continue forward. All right, so you guys are going faster than the last time I did this. I'm guessing because a lot of you have already some kind of programming experience. So I'll show you the exercise, how it's done. And then we'll probably take a small break. And when we come back, we're gonna see comparisons and conditionals with Corn. Yep. So how we will go about this? So I have a variable called Pokemon Health. Could say like 200, something like that. And then I have my damage here. So you can call it damage, or it would be like, I don't know, 55. And then I'm gonna print my Pokemon with itself before. So I'm gonna do that. My Pokemon plus health. Actually, I'm gonna do the full thing. Actually, I already modified it, so it's fine. Plus health. And here I do str Pokemon health. All right. So you see, you don't have necessarily to modify that variable. You can just like print it like this, and it should give you this. Then I'm gonna inflict damage. So in our case, we would want to use minus equal. So we're subtracting health from our Pokemon. So it would be damage in our case. This is not necessary, but I'm just doing it for the heck of it, just to show you. Dealing plus str damage plus 2. And then plus my Pokemon. Like that. And then we can do this thing. And that should be fine, I think. Right. So you can see dealing 50. Yeah, there you go. All right. So any questions on the exercise? Are we good to go on break?
I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So we're gonna take 15 minutes or so break. And when we come back, I'll give Con the mic and the screen share, and he'll be able to show you guys how to do comparisons and conditionals in Python. So be right back.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Just one last thing. At the end of the lesson, I will give you guys access to the code, so you can review the code, and there's also gonna be a recording of this. So the recording will also be made available to you. So if you want to
Great,
review
thanks.
anything, yeah, if you want to review anything we did today, you're gonna be able to do it.
Cool, thanks.
T-Push, will you post what you have it now at least? That way I can just copy it into my editor. Oh, guess he left.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello. For anyone who's here, by the way, I'll be around during the break. So if you have any questions about programming or software development in general, feel free to type in chat or ask. And I'll try to answer.
Con, I'm gonna give you the code up until now, so you can
Oh, great.
continue using it if you want.
Sure.
Oops. Yeah, should be good. Send it to you as a DM.
Okay, thanks. For anyone who's here, can you see my screen at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Still have a couple minutes for the break, but
Con, you don't mind if I leave you up to it, and I'll come back towards the end of the lesson?
yeah, not a problem.
All right. So I'll do that. By the way, feel free to DM me if there's anything at any point.
Okay, sure.
All right, guys. Was nice teaching you stuff, and hope you like the lesson. Feel free to give us feedback either directly in the channel or DM or however you want it. Thank you, guys, and have a nice day and have a nice lesson.
Thank you
Later.
for your time also.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
thanks.
Thank you.
So we'll get started up again in just a couple minutes here. But in the meantime, if you want to, if you've been following along with T-Push's code and you want to update it, I commented out all of the print statements just so when we run it, it doesn't show like everything that's been happening so far, just so we can kind of start with a clean slate and there's not too much going on. So feel free to do that if you like.
The the fact that this language is not a statically typed language is throwing me off because I'm making the object, and then when I'm doing the dot, nothing's showing up because I don't think it knows what the class the object is. And so I tried using, I think, the type hinders. Well, when I use the type hinders, I'm able to put the dot and get the function for the class I made. But then when I try to print it or use it, it gives me like an error. So then I had to like remove the type hinter.
Huh, interesting. Well, if you want to, you can post your code. I could try to take a look at it probably after the session because we're going to get started up again. But I guess you said you defined your own class. Is that?
Yeah.
I see.
That's a bit ahead, right?
What's that?
Finding classes.
Yeah, I've done object-oriented programming with classes for C++ for so long. I'm just used to it.
Yeah, most of my experience is in C++ as well. If you want, you can, if it's giving you an error, you can just post your error at least, and then I can possibly give you some guidance off of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got zero experience in programming, so.
It might even, if everyone's here, I may actually just cover errors really quickly because it's pretty useful and you run into them a lot. So it's helpful to understand how what they look like and how to get use out of them. Because a lot of new programmers I find when they see an error, they're not exactly sure like what to do with it.
Immediate panic.
Yeah, yeah. So is everyone back, by the way? I guess I wouldn't know if someone's.
I am back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My friend left, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if they come back, then they can just.
I don't think they're coming back, but.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they just said they have to go.
Okay. So just as an example of like an error message, here I have a print function that's just printing 1, kind of like we've been doing so far. So if you see, it gave me an error message, right? It didn't actually print 1. And this is kind of a trivial example, but basically it's telling me there's a syntax error, right? Which syntax is like the, you know, the symbols and stuff that we use, right? So it's just telling me there's an error in the way that I wrote the code. This will usually give you some kind of like description. And then what's really important is that it tells you like the line number where it happened. So it says it's at line 79, but in this case, what we can determine is that if we look at like line 79, sometimes you have to look before that line, like we do here. We can see that I'm actually missing the closing parenthesis here. And so basically Python was looking for that closing parenthesis and it looked all the way to line 79 and didn't find anything. So if I run it now, it prints 1. So that's just one example of like looking at error messages. Really the important thing is that you can see the line number, and it's usually, sometimes, like I said, it's not exactly on that line, but near it or before it. And then it gives you the type of error and usually like a description, like a short description. Usually if you Google this, you can find some good, helpful hints that may push you in the right direction. Anyways, maybe we'll run into some more of those later. So let's see. Now I'm going to cover a new class of operators that we can use. So most of what we've seen so far are things like, you know, minus and equals and plus and that kind of stuff, the mathematical operators. There are a separate class called comparators, which are, if you remember from like your algebra days, there are things like less than, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equal. And then we also have 2 that you may not have seen in math before, which would be the double equal sign, which is it checks for equality. So it checks if like the 2 things are equal. So I could say like 1 double equal sign 1, and this would check to see if 1 is equal to 1. We also have exclamation point equals, which is not equal to. So if I would say like 1 not equal to 2, this would check if 1 is not equal to 2. So when we use these, they essentially evaluate into a new type of variable. So what we've seen so far is like a is equal to 1. This is like an assignment, right? We're taking a, the variable, and we're assigning the value 1. But when we use things, operators like these comparators, we get what's called a Boolean, which has 2 values, 2 possible values. It can either be true or it can be false, right? So these are how we determine, like, these are how we basically ask questions to the computer, to Python, or like make decisions. So we'll cover that a little bit more later, but for now, let's just see these in practice. So say I have, let's do some like simple examples. So say I take that 1 is equal to 1, and I just try to print it, and let's see what happens. So it'll print true, right? Essentially what happens here is we check if 1 is equal to 1, right? Which is obviously true. So we print the result of that comparison and it prints out true. If I set this to 2, then it would print out false, right? Because 1 is not equal to 2. So when we check that it is equal, this evaluates into true, or into false, excuse me, the comparison evaluates into false. I'll just write out some more examples here. Let's say 10 is greater than 5, right? So as you would expect, this would evaluate into true, right? So you can use, let's see, I'll do the not equals. The first 4 here, the less than, that stuff, that should be pretty straightforward if you've seen that kind of stuff in like algebra before. Let's say, actually, let's do it with some variables. Let's say I have Pokemon 1 equal to Pikachu, right? We can use these with strings as well. So Pokemon 2 is equal to Charmander. And then I will say Pokemon 1, whoops, not equal to Pokemon 2. Okay, and if I run this, what do you guys think it'll print?
True.
Okay. Yeah, exactly, it prints true. Because it checks, we asked for not equals, so we checked if Pokemon 1, Pikachu, is not equal to Pokemon 2, which is Charmander, right? And that is true. They are not equal, right? So it prints out true. If we change this to double equal sign, it would print out false, right? We can see that. False. So are there any questions so far before I move on? What about print not 1? Well, let's try it out. Not 1. So this actually, I think this actually doesn't work like this in Python. It's a little bit different if you're used to different languages. But the not, we'll touch on it a little bit later, but the not in Python is just typed out as not. So we'll cover that a little bit later. But you can do things like, actually, let's see. Are there any other questions before I move on, maybe?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. So then here's a little quiz for you. So say I have these same 2 Pokemon variables, these strings, and I typed Pokemon 1 less than Pokemon 2, right? So if we look at these 2 are strings. So what do you guys think will happen here? What will it print and why?
Will it calculate the number of characters on the string and will compare them?
Okay, so you think it'll count like, okay, Pikachu has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters, and it'll do the comparison that way?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a valid idea. Any other ideas before I reveal the answer?
I'm going to guess that it's gonna say true because it's gonna take the fact that Charmander starts with a C, which comes before P, even though the Charmander string is longer than the Pikachu string.
Okay, so you think it'll be like alphabetically or like
Yeah.
kind of like how you would look. Yeah, okay. So that's true. It's going to look at the alphabetical ordering of the strings and do less than that way. So less than would mean like it comes first in the dictionary. So this would actually print false since we're checking if Pikachu is less than Charmander. And if we run this, you'll see, yeah, it prints false, right? But if I change this to, let's see, if I change it to greater than, then this would be true because Pikachu comes after Charmander in the dictionary. Does that make sense to everyone, how it's like looking alphabetically and comparing it that way?
Yeah, now.
Oh, so if it's higher, so the closer it is in the alphabet, the lower the value it is.
Kind of, yeah. It would look character by character. So it would look at like, let's say if I change this to, what's another P Pokemon? Porygon? Then the P's would be equal. So it would have to look at the next character, I and O, right?
Right.
And it would say, okay, I is before O, so Pokemon 1 is less than Pokemon 2, right? So then if I ran it this way, where I'm using greater than, this should be false, right? Does that make sense?
But essentially, the earlier it is in the alphabet, the lower value it has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can think of it that way. You can even, actually, I'm not sure, but I'm going to test it out. I think case matters, but I'm not quite sure. Let's find out. False. But if I change this to P, maybe case doesn't matter. Okay, never mind.
But it ignores all the other letters after it figures one is
exactly.
higher.
Yeah.
If you make one of these uppercase and one of them lowercase, what happens?
So we just saw that it would print false. Actually, let's try if I make Porygon here. Okay, so case does matter. I think
so
if we...
It's based on ASCII values then.
Yeah.
Probably.
So for those of you who don't know, ASCII is like how the computer represents characters internally. So it's kind of a little complicated, so I won't go like too much into detail, but basically like A has a value of, I don't know, like 62 or something like that. And then B would be 63 and so on. And so then when we do this comparison, it essentially looks at, I don't know exactly what the value is, but let's say P is, I don't know, 75 and capital P is, 130 or something like that. So it would look at these values and determine basically the equality of them. But I won't go into much more detail than that.
You can Google ASCII table and it'll show you like all the basic characters and the
yeah,
different
exactly.
numbers.
So if we just Google ASCII, you can see like, well, let's here. It'll just show you like all the ASCII characters, but okay.
That pretty much makes sense.
Yeah. So just remember that like with numbers, it's pretty self-explanatory, but with strings, it looks alphabetically. And then we covered these comparators, these less than, equal to, not equal to, the greater than and equal to, that kind of stuff. We also covered Booleans, right? So then this is how we got to take this comparison and print it into a value, right? Onto the screen, true or false. So let's see. We can even assign these to a variable. So let's say, let's take Charmander, and let's give it a level. And we'll say Charmander's level is 15. So then, does anyone know off the top of their head what level Charmander levels up or evolves?
I think 16 or something.
Yeah, it's 16. Yep. So let's say Charmander. Sorry, let's do this. Evolving is equal to Charmander level equal to 16. And then I print evolving, right? So what we're doing here is we're taking this Charmander level is equal to 16, which will result in some Boolean value. And then we assign that to evolving, right? Using the single equal sign, right? Does this syntax here make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't really need the parentheses, but I just had them there for just showing like that this happens first and we get the result and then it's stored into evolving. So if we print this, as we know, it should print false, right? Because Charmander level is not 16, it's 15 like we assigned here. So Charmander is not ready to evolve. So what we can do with this is we can have our code be a little bit more dynamic Everything we've seen so far is just how programs run sequentially, or like one line after the other, right? So we execute this line where we assign 15 to Charmander level. We execute this line, and then we execute this line, and we print it out, right? But sometimes we want our programs to do a little bit more complicated things than just like one after the other instructions. So we want it to, like, you know, make a decision and do something if this value, if this comparison is true, or do something if this comparison's false. So what we can do with that is this, or how we accomplish that, I guess, is this syntax called the if statement. And so the general syntax is if some condition, right? And then we have a colon, and that tells us that we're going to perform this block of code, this section of code, if that condition is true. So let's say if condition, then we'll print, or we'll do something, right? So this is kind of the general syntax, right? So let's put this into practice here. I'm going to comment this out because that's actually not going to work. So let's say if, just taking this example and putting it into this if statement syntax, if Charmander level is equal to 16, right? Then with our semicolon, we can print Charmander is evolving. Okay, so let's run this. Uh-oh, I missed something. Oh, here, whoops. So what I see here, just to go back to our error message, it told me line 86, right? So I looked at line 86, and it says unmatched parentheses, a close paren, and I noticed that there was an extra paren here. But anyways, now if I run this, we shouldn't have the error. Okay, so it didn't print Charmander is evolving. Can anyone tell me why that is?
Because the condition didn't meet.
Exactly, yeah. So this condition was false. So when we use an if statement, this code inside the if statement will only run if the condition is true, right? And so one thing that's important to note as well about Python is that we have to have white space here. So white space is, or Python's what's called a white space delimited language. So if you've seen in other languages like C++ or Python, this would be like, you know, we have if, condition, and then we have the curly braces, right, to denote that there's some code that we want to run inside. In Python, we don't do that. We just have the semicolon shown here, and then we have the white space, right? It has to be tabbed in like that, or, you know, 2 or 3 spaces or whatever, as long as it's consistent. So if we had another line, we just we put it at the same like level of indentation, and then when we put stuff here, print outside the if. Since this is on the same like level of indentation as the if statement, it means it's not inside that if statement, right? Does that kind of make sense? If you want something to be run inside the if statement, then you have to like indent it at that level. Is that clear?
You also have to avoid it being connected, like if it's one space below, or does that not matter?
Oh, one space. Oh, I see. So no, we could even do stuff like, you know, like have, are you talking about blank lines like this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
so
directly below that.
exactly.
Because of the same line as the if.
Oh, I see. Like this.
Yeah. Like, is it outside the if statement if it's if you're one line below but not indented?
Oh, I see. I see. So that will actually give us a syntax error.
If
and
it's
if
connected.
if it's connected,
Like
oh, you mean on the same line?
No, I mean like if it's not, I shouldn't say connected. If it's not separated by a space, like after that print, if you added another statement, like just a plain old thing that you don't want to be part of the if.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you don't like if that if statement is supposed to run something, is that X going to be counted as part of the if, or do you need a space in between it?
I see. You do not actually, so I'll showcase that here. So as long as it's the only thing that it cares about is like the indentation. So for example, here we have the if statement, and then this print statement is indented, right, which says it's inside the if statement. And then this line here is not indented, and that tells Python that it's outside of the if statement. So if we run this, it'll say outside the if.
Oh, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, completely.
Okay, cool. I'm looking at chat. Scuttle says, why deal with forgetting a semicolon when you deal with misspacing and tabbing? Yeah, I don't know why. It's just a design decision made by whoever wrote Python, the people who wrote Python. That's a good question.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, sure.
What will happen if you put an if in this if? How will it look?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. So that in programming is what we call a nested if statement. So I'll showcase that here, a nested if statement, right? And that basically means we have an if nested inside of another if. So let's say we'll print Charmander's evolving, and then we have if, I don't know, let's say stop evolve. If you've played Pokemon before, sometimes you know that when your Pokemon's evolving, you can stop their evolution. And then if that's true, we'll print never mind. You stopped the evolution. Okay, and then we'll need to make a variable for that. So I'll say stop evolve equals true. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here. So that if statement that we just added, it's still indented inside the main if statement, if you will. This is kind of getting into a little bit more complex syntax, but does this make sense at least, that it's inside by, since it's at the same level of indentation, it's inside the main else statement or if statement, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to see how it looks.
Yeah, so if we had this on the same level as the first if statement, then it would be a separate if statement and they would run one after the other. But if we have it indented, whoops, like this, then it runs inside the if statement. So let's try to like get some of these print statements. So let's say now we fought a battle and we won, so our Charmander leveled up, right? So now the level should be 16, which should make it evolve. And if we run this, Charmander's evolving, right? So this line ran, but the next line that ran was this if statement, if stop evolve, right? So we assigned stopped evolve to be true. So this says basically if true, then we print never mind, you stopped the evolution, right? We stopped it. So then now after that, we come outside of the if statement, right? There are no more lines to be run there. So we come outside and we print outside the if, right? Are there any questions about this? I know I kind of covered a lot there. So if you have any questions at all or you're confused in any way about this, please ask now.
No, everything's right. Thanks for answering the question.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay, so let's do a quick exercise then. Let's do, what I want you to do is essentially, let's see, define your own Pokemon with its own level. And it doesn't really matter what level it is or what level it evolves, but print out, make an if statement that will decide whether or not that Pokemon should evolve. And then if it's true, then we'll print it evolves. Okay. So we'll take, since it's pretty similar to the code we have so far, we'll just take like 5 minutes maybe to do this. And if you have any questions, ask in chat or just speak up and I'll be here to answer. Let's see, Scuttle says, how do we do or this condition or that condition? Okay, yeah, so I'll cover that in probably a couple more topics. But in case you want to get ahead, you would basically just say if condition 1 or condition 2.
So
right.
So it's not my so I posted code in the coding general.
Oh, okay.
And apparently the while loop says there's an error with syntax.
I see. Well, you need a semicolon. So loops aren't really, we're not going to cover loops in this session, but it looks like you just need a semicolon and then some, oh, you have a do while loop. I'm not sure if there is do while in Python. Yeah, Python doesn't have a do while loop actually. So you'll have to figure out a different way to do that, maybe with just a standard while loop. If that makes sense.
Okay, so the issue is just my while loop.
Yeah.
It does not exist. Okay.
The do while loop, at least. There is the standard while loop and for loop, yeah. But
okay.
So as far as the exercise, how's it going for everyone? Is everyone going or doing all right with it?
Yeah, mine wrong.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. It is working, but it's doing an infinite loop. Okay.
Uh-oh. Yeah, so that means you need to change your condition. But again, loops aren't going to be covered in this session. They'll be covered, I think, in session. I think simple loops, for loops, are covered in session 2. So if you're interested, come tomorrow. Let's see, I'll give it 1 more minute for this exercise, and then we'll move on. Tomorrow, session 2 or session 3? Let me look at the schedule. It looks like tomorrow is session 2. We'll probably have a session 3 next week if you want to come for that. And I think session 2 covers arrays and simple for loops, I think. So yeah, come to that if you're interested. Okay, so it's been another minute. I'll just ask again if anyone is having trouble or issues with this. Feel free to speak up now. Okay.
I'm good.
Cool. So what we've seen with this so far then is how we can have the computer have Python run something if some condition is true, right? If Charmander was ready to level up or ready to evolve, then we printed Charmander's evolving, right? We saw nested if statements where you have an if statement inside of another if statement, right? And you can even, keep going and inception your if statements, right? And just have them nested for days and days. But sometimes even this can be a little bit limiting. Sometimes we want to run some piece of this one piece of code if the condition is true, and we want to run a different piece of code if that condition was false, right? So it's kind of like two separate pieces of code that get run if the condition's either true or false, right? So the way we do that is with, we just add a new keyword to our if statement, right? We're going to add some new syntax. So we have, just to give you a general idea, actually, let me put it down here. So the general syntax for this is if condition, run some code. So like we've seen before, this code here will run if that condition was true. Else, run some other code. Okay, so just to go over it again really quickly, we have if condition, right? So this condition is evaluated into a Boolean that's either true or false. And if it's true, then this code is run some code if true. If it's false, if this condition was false, then we come down to this else statement. Python jumps to that else statement and runs this code that's below, that's nested, or that's in the else block, okay? Does that kind of make sense before I start up with an example?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let's do an example then. Let's say we evolved into Charmeleon, right? And our Charmeleon has some HP. So let's say we were at, I don't know, 30 HP. And we went to battle at Misty's gym, and who, you know, deals with water type Pokemon, right? So our Charmeleon is obviously weak against water Pokemon. So we got wrecked, needless to say, when we went to try to fight her. And our Charmeleon, let's say HP, we took 50 damage. And so now we're below 0, right? Our HP now is -20. So let's print that just to make sure we're on the right track so far. If we run this, cool, -20. Okay, so if Charmeleon HP, so what we're going to do here is we're going to determine, whether or not we need to go to the Pokemon Center. So if Charmeleon HP is greater than 0, print you're okay, keep fighting. Else, print Charmeleon fainted. Go see Nurse Joy at the Pokemon Center. Okay. So just to run through it again really quickly, we have this if statement that checks if Charmeleon's HP is greater than 0, right? Which means, you know, our Charmeleon hasn't fainted. So we print, if that's true, we print you're okay, keep fighting. If it's not true, we come down to this else statement and we execute the code inside that block, right? Whatever code is here. So print, let's say statement 2, or execute statement 3, right? It would run all of the code inside the else block. So if we run this, it will print Charmeleon fainted, right? Because our HP was -20. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sweet. So yeah, that's basically how we have Python perform different blocks of, or like run different blocks of code depending on if a condition is true or not, right? Because sometimes we want to run some code if a condition is not true. So then let's say we went back to, let's say we trained for a little bit and we raised our Charmeleon's HP to 100. And so Misty, her star U, did a water blast at us, or a bubble or whatever, and we took the 50 damage. And so what do you guys think will print now?
And now it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're okay, we can keep fighting and hopefully get that gym badge. Let's see. Okay. So that kind of covers the basic if else. There's one more keyword, if you will, that I want to add. But I guess before that, let's see. Let me think of a good example really quick. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So sometimes, let's say, okay, I got an idea. So sometimes what we want to do is, instead of, when this condition's false, instead of going straight to the else statement, we want to ask another question. Okay, so for those of you who've programmed before, this is basically else if. So what we do is we add, let's see, I'm going to copy and paste this code. We're just going to make a separate section here. I'm going to comment this out for now. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to comment this out. Okay, so that was if else. Here, the syntax is, let's see, if condition. So same thing as before, right? This part's nothing new. Print, or let's just say run code if true. And then we can have one or more of these else if blocks, right? And so the syntax for this is elif, right? This is how Python says else if. So, whoops, we need another condition here, condition 2, run code if condition 2 is true, and then else run code if everything was false. Okay, so just to kind of walk through this step by step here, if this condition's true, then we run this code and we skip everything else, right? And we come to outside if statement. Okay, so if this condition's true, we run this code, whatever's inside that block, and we come outside the if statement, right? But if that condition's false, up here, we would have normally just jumped to the else statement, but we said, as the programmer, we said not so fast. We have another question, right? So we're going to say, we're going to ask another question, condition 2, and if that one's true, then we would run this code. And then when that's finished, we would skip the else statement and come outside, right? But if condition 1 was false, uh-oh, lagged out for a second. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I lagged out for a second. So if condition 1 was false and condition 2 was also false, then we would come down to the else statement, right? And similarly, similarly, we can have elif condition 3 ... run some code here, and so on. We can have basically as many of these questions as we want, and then an else statement if we want. So these are basically optional. They're only if you want to ask any additional questions, or if you don't care what any, or if you don't care about any other conditions, then you can just like run some like general code if everything else was false. So any questions about that before I put it into an example?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. So let's see. So let's take the same example that we had before. And let's say if Charmeleon HP is greater than 50, let's say greater than or equal to 50, you're doing great. Keep fighting. And then we'll have another question that we care about. If Charmeleon HP is greater than or equal to 20, print, you're getting kind of low, bud. All right. And then let's add another question, another condition, where we say if Charmeleon HP greater than or equal to 0, print your Charmeleon is super low. You should flee. Okay, cool. So with the current state of Charmeleon's HP, when we get to this, what do you guys think we'll print?
The first if statement will be true.
Yeah, okay, cool. So exactly, if we get to here, Charmeleon's HP is, is 50. So when we come here, Charmeleon HP, this evaluates, we ask if it's greater than or equal to 50, which it is. So this is true. And let's run this. You're doing great, keep fighting. So that was true. So we came and executed this line of code, and then we didn't execute any of the other print statements, right? That's the important part, is that it executed this, and then it skipped everything else and came outside. Okay. But then let's say we did some more fighting and Charmeleon HP went down another 20 points. Okay. So then now we're at 30. Okay. So, whoops, I typed that wrong. Charmeleon, there we go. Okay, so what do y'all think it'll print this time?
The second one.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting kind of low, bud. Cool. So then let's say we went and our Charmeleon went and fought, a Mewtwo because we thought we could handle him. We beat Misty and we thought we were the best in the world, the best Pokemon trainer. So we fought Mewtwo and we took 1,000 damage. So now we're really low. And if we print that out, we're at we're at negative 970. We took a lot of damage and Charmeleon fainted. We should go see Nurse Joy, right? So when we took negative 970 and we evaluated this condition, which was false, then we said, okay, we have another condition, but that one was false. Then we have another condition, that one's false, and there are no more conditions, so we just come and execute the else statement, right? If we didn't have this else statement, then basically nothing would happen. We would just come outside the if. So if we run this, outside the if, right? None of these executed. But with that else statement there, whoops, let's see. We go and we execute that because all of the other conditions were false. Charmeleon fainted, go see Nurse Joy, and then we go outside the if statement. Let's see. Okay, cool. Any questions so far on if statements, booleans, conditions, blocks, that kind of stuff?
So far, so good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if I can come up with some example for you guys to write some code. Let's see. Let's do, how about this? Let's have, so everyone's kind of familiar with Pokemon, right? And how like Pokemon, like the types work, like fire and water and that kind of stuff?
Yep.
Okay, so let's say I want you to define, actually, give me a sec, let me think of something good here. Let me see if there's an example. Okay, I got an idea. So there are some Pokemon that don't evolve with levels, right? If we go back to like our levels code, there are some Pokemon that only evolve with stones, right? So like a Moonstone is an example. So one example of a Pokemon like this would be like Jigglypuff, I think. So say then we have, I want you to define a Pokemon variable with the name, Jigglypuff. And then I want you to define a Boolean called has Moonstone and set it equal to true or false, and then write an if statement that asks, let's say, if statement that evolves your Pokemon if the name is Jigglypuff, and then have a nested if statement if you have a Moonstone, if you have a Moonstone, then print evolving. Okay, so take a few minutes and try to put that into code, and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. How's everyone doing with the assignment so far? Any trouble, any errors, questions, anything like that?
All good.
Cool. Anybody else? Anybody want to share their code maybe in chat? Don't feel pressured or anything, but if you want to, feel free.
I wanted to put an else statement, but I don't know where exactly should I put it, because in this, like, should it be below the first if, in line with before the first if, or the second if, in order it to work?
So it's kind of up to you, like what you're trying to use your
Yes,
else statement for.
I want to use it for if, like, the first statement is if the Pokemon is Jigglypuff, and the second is if it has a Moonstone. And I wanted to set it if I don't have a Moonstone, that it won't evolve. I wanted to print out that
Okay.
it couldn't evolve.
So what it sounds like to me then is you, if your Pokemon's a Jigglypuff, if
The first-
you, yeah, that's your first if statement. If you have a Moonstone, that's a second if statement. And if those are true, then you print evolving. But if you don't have a Moonstone, then you still have a Jigglypuff. You just don't want them to evolve. You don't have a Moonstone, so they can't evolve, right?
Yeah.
So you would have it inside the first one, and it would be in line with the second if statement here. You see like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be an else that's attached to the second if statement. And if you had it here, then that would be attached to the first if statement, right? Because they're like on the same column, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
So let's just go ahead and I guess you should have some kind of code that looks like this. Pokemon name equals Jigglypuff. Let's see, has Moonstone equal to, let's say, true for now. And then if Pokemon name is equal to Jigglypuff. Uh-oh. I lagged out again. Here we go. Okay. If Pokemon name is equal to Jigglypuff, if has Moonstone, print evolving. Okay. So this is just the base code, just from the example or the exercise that I gave you guys. So we'll run this, and then I'll add a couple else statements to show what you could do with this. So if we just print this, great. Our Pokemon name was Jigglypuff, and we did have a Moonstone, so we are evolving. But let's say we didn't have a Moonstone. Else print don't have a Moonstone, not evolving. All right, so if we run this, we should get that print message, right? This evaluated to false. Even though our Pokemon name was Jigglypuff, this evaluated to false, so we didn't evolve, okay? And let's say that our Moonstone, we do have one, but our Pokemon was Oddish, which doesn't evolve with a Moonstone, right? So then print, you don't have a Jigglypuff. Cool. So even though we do have a Moonstone, this is never executed because this condition was false, right? So it skipped everything inside that block and came down to the else statement, and we printed out that we didn't have a Jigglypuff because we had an Oddish. Does everyone's code kind of look similar, at least to the base stuff here?
Yeah, my only problem during the start was the has moonstone part, I put a double equals.
Oh, so you did something like this is equal to true?
Yeah, in the first part, not there.
First
I
part.
had a, as in when I was what's called naming the what's called. the
Oh,
variable.
like
So I had
here.
yeah, and I had a what's called error, which I fixed after.
Yeah. So that's actually that's a common error. Another common error is something like this, where we forget to put a double equals when we're trying to make a comparison. And
or do the opposite, yeah.
yeah, so that's a common error. So let's try to run this actually and see what kind of error it gives us. Invalid syntax, right? So it tells us line 162. We have an invalid syntax error, and it even shows us the code and like gives us a little pointer to where the invalid syntax is. So if we look at that and we see, oh, this is an if statement, we're trying to compare these two things. We shouldn't have a single equal sign. We should have two equal signs, and we do that. But then if we, let's see what happens if we run this. Name has moonstones not defined. Yeah, so this one's actually kind of tricky to, it's, yeah, because it, technically this is like a valid statement in Python, right? It just, does the comparison, but it doesn't like assign the value. So then when we get to here, well, it doesn't even get to here. It just gets to here because we haven't assigned anything to has moonstone. Cool. So everyone's good so far? No questions or anything before I move on to the last topic?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Cool, sweet. So then the last thing that I want to cover are what are known as logical operators. So we've seen where are we at? The arithmetic operators right here. Let me just write it in. Arithmetic operators, right? Where we had like plus, division, multiplication, all that kind of good stuff. We had the comparators, right? Or you'll hear them like comparison operators, maybe. Stuff like less than, double equal sign, not equal to, that kind of stuff. The last ones that we want to talk about are called logical. And these are mostly used, well, pretty much exclusively used as far as I know within these types of like if statements and conditionals, that kind of stuff. So they're things like and, or, and not. So these are the three main ones. I think they're the only three, but could I get a list of what was covered today so I can look on my own? Yeah, Alexander, we'll post the code as well as the recording of the session should be available afterwards. So yeah, you can take a look at that. Let's see. So yeah, we have and, or, and not. And so what these allow us to do is like take these conditions and either combine them or modify them in ways to like ask more complex questions or make more complex decisions. So these and or are what we call binary, which means they require two conditions. And not is a unary operator, which means it only requires one condition or something to evaluate on. Where it'll be posted in Discord in, I think, coding resources, Alexander, in that channel. You can take a look there after the session's over. So let's look at some examples with this then. So the way we use these things are like condition 1 and condition 2, condition 1 or condition 2, and then not condition 1, right? So when I said binary operators, right, this and or, they're binary operators, which means they require two things, one on each side of the and or, right? And then this one is a unary operator, not. So we just place it in front of whatever condition we're trying to evaluate. So let's take a look at an example. Let's take this example and let's make it a little prettier, because really these two questions can kind of be asked at the same time, right? We don't need to have a nested if statement for them. So we can ask if our Pokemon is named Jigglypuff and has Moonstone. Print. Jigglypuff is evolving. Okay. So if we take a look at this, we had one condition, right? Pokemon name equal Jigglypuff, right? Our Pokemon, we're asking if the Pokemon name is equal to Jigglypuff, and we're asking if we have a Moonstone, right? So rather than having the nested if statements like this, we can combine them using the AND operator, right? Using AND. So what AND says is that they both have to be true. Okay, so let's just put that in here. Both conditions must be true. Right? So if here, then, if we have a Jigglypuff and we don't have a Moonstone, then this whole thing is false. Let's see. But if our Pokemon name, like in our current situation, let's change this back to Jigglypuff. If this is true and this is true, then the whole thing is true and we can execute the code inside of the if statement. Okay. So keep that in mind. With and, both conditions must be true. If one of them is false, then we don't execute that code. Okay. With or, at least one condition must be true. Okay. So if we change this to or, if Pokemon name is equal to Jigglypuff or has Moonstone, then if one of those conditions is true, then we would execute the code inside here, right? So this is actually incorrect, because even if our Pokemon was oddish, right, and we run this, it says Jigglypuff's evolving, but we don't have a Jigglypuff, right? We have an oddish. Does that make sense? So or doesn't work in this scenario. We need an and. Let's put an else here just to be clear. Print. Nothing happened. Okay. Nothing happened, right? Because we have an oddish, even though we have a Moonstone and this is true, this one is false. So the whole condition failed and we came to the else statement. The whole condition was false, you could say. But if we have our Jigglypuff again, Jigglypuff's evolving. Okay. Does everyone see why this is working the way it is? Are there any questions?
Nope. Everything's
Yeah, that
right.
makes sense.
Cool. Let's see. So we can even combine them in, you know, more complex ways, like and condition 3 or condition 4 or condition 5, right? So this can get fairly complex, as you would expect. So, you know, when you're doing this type of stuff, you generally want to think like, okay, what kinds of things are dependent on each other and like what can be nested or separated entirely, that kind of stuff, because the logic can get kind of, kind of complicated. So let's see. Let's do a not example then. Let's see if how about let's have some new Pokemon. How about that? If Pokemon name is equal to, or trying to think of a good example here. Let's go back to Pikachu. How about that? So then Pikachu evolves with Thunderstone, right, to Raichu. We'll set this equal to false. If, actually, this may not be a good example. Let me think. Okay, I have an idea actually. So if you've played Pokemon before, then you know when you're in a battle, if you, let's say, you're fighting a really tough battle, right? And some of your Pokemon are fainting, they're getting beat by the opposing trainer's Pokemon. When you run out of Pokemon, right, it basically kicks you out of the battle and takes you straight to the Pokemon Center, right? When all of your Pokemon faint, you just get kicked out of the battle and go to the Pokemon Center. So let's say we have some healthy Pokemon. Let's say we're kind of early in the game, so we only have 2. So let's say if not, let's see here. If not healthy Pokemon let me think about how best to write this actually. Let me see. Equal to 0. Pokemon available equals false. Okay. Okay. So here's the code I wrote to demonstrate this not keyword. So we have some healthy Pokemon. We're in a battle currently. And if our Pokemon, if our number of healthy Pokemon is equal to 0, then we have no Pokemon available, right? And if there's not any Pokemon available, then we want to go to the Pokemon Center, else we can choose another Pokemon. Okay. So let's see, we're gonna need, actually, yeah. We'll do it like this way for now, and then I'll rewrite it here in a second. Pokemon available equals true. Okay, so if I run this, what do you guys think it'll print? Anyone have an idea?
I got kind of confused.
Okay, that's okay.
I think it would print choose another Pokemon.
Okay.
Because you go to the first if statement, it checks for whether it's equal to 0. It isn't, so then Pokemon available is true. And then if not true, so if false, which then it's false, then it goes to else, and then it choose another Pokemon.
Yeah, your logic is exactly right. So we check if healthy Pokemon is equal to 0. It's not, right, because it's 2. So this is false, and we come down to the else statement and set it to true. And then we check in this if statement, if not Pokemon available, right? If we don't have any Pokemon available, then we go to the Pokemon Center, else we choose another Pokemon. And but we had set Pokemon available to true. So this would evaluate to false, right? This little section here. We say not true is basically false. So we come down here, we run this, and it tells us to choose another Pokemon. So let's say we choose another one, and now we have one healthy Pokemon. It's still telling us to choose another one when that one gets defeated, let's say, and now we're at 0. So it's telling us to go to the Pokemon Center because we have to heal all of our Pokemon. Let's see, maybe a better way to write this, I think, would be Pokemon available equals healthy Pokemon equal to 0. Actually, let me just comment that out instead. There we go. If we run this, it should be kind of the same thing. We just turn that if else into this assignment condition, since we can do that here because that's basically all we're doing with this if else block is just assigning oh wait, this should be not equals. So this is a bug, right? We have 0 healthy Pokemon, but it's telling me to choose another one. So this should be not equal. Go to Pokemon Center. There we go.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
If not, is it like checking for false instead of true, or is it checking for null?
Yeah, so, okay, that's a good question. So what it does is it takes the value of that condition and just flips it, right?
Okay.
So if Pokemon available is true, is equal to true, then not would turn this equal to false, right?
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense.
So this is like putting an exclamation mark in front of your like.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
there's not really that kind of syntax in Python. They use this like not thing instead. But yeah, if you were in another language, you would just do like if not Pokemon available.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. So any other questions about not or and or any of these logical operators?
Nope, I'm good.
Cool. Well, I think judging by my notes here, that pretty much covers the material for session 1. So we will go ahead and end the official session here. I'll stick around for another 10 or 15 minutes in case you guys have questions or anything like that. But yeah, at this point, you're free to go. We will be having a session 2 tomorrow, which will just build off of where we finished here, and we'll cover things like arrays, which, just to give you a teaser, are how we have like collections of variables, right? So if we have like, you know, say in Pokemon, right, you have like a party, right? A Pokemon party where you have all your Pokemon. So that would be kind of like an array. We have an array of different Pokemon that we could go into combat with. So it's like a collection. And then I think we also cover loops, which are similar to if statements and else statements, where they kind of change how the program flows, right? Whereas if allowed us to make decisions based off a condition, loops allow us to repeat blocks of code as long as a condition is true, if that makes sense. So let's see. So yeah, that will happen tomorrow. And then I will post this code into, let's see, into one of the Discord channels. I forget which one it goes in at the moment, but I'll post it in open session voice text. So if you want to take this and compare it with your own code or build off it or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that. Yeah, so I'll stick around for another 10 minutes or so in case you guys have any questions about programming or anything we covered here today, or anything. But yeah, at this point, yeah, you guys are free to go. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Hope you guys got something worth some value out of this. And yeah, I hope to see you guys tomorrow.
And thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Yeah,
Yes, have a good one.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
I want to ask about the time tomorrow because I got confused with the UTS and the EST times. So today, with your time, because I'm from Bulgaria.
Okay.
In your time, it was 5 p.m. when we started, right?
In my time, it was, so I'm in
I don't know.
Chicago.
Oh yeah, I just assumed that you're in the same time zone, but
Oh,
I don't think that's true.
UTC is like England, like Western Europe, I think.
Something
That's
like
where I
that.
am. Yeah. EST is Eastern America, I think.
Yeah. EST is like New York time zone or.
Do you know which time zone you're in?
Yeah, I'm in CST. So.
Yours.
So I'm in Chicago. So that's Central time, which is just like Central American. Yeah.
What about you, Zugarfot?
I don't really know. Let me check.
UTC plus 2 is yours, I think, Bulgaria.
So UTC plus 2.
Yeah. So they'll probably post UTC time. You just add 2 hours onto that, and that'll be your time.
Yeah. So on Sunday it's gonna be at 7 UTS. So that's 9 p.m. in my time. Okay.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because if I skip one hour, it's basically I skip the whole thing. So it's I need to know about the time.
Wait, what was it?
Also, by the way, for those of you that are still around, we do very much appreciate feedback. If you have any feedback on how the structure of the lesson went. I know a lot of people here had coding experience before, so it might have felt kind of slow for you. But even so, please give us feedback on Tipush and I and the content of the lesson as well. I think there might be a Google Doc for that or like a Google survey for that. I'll try to find it and post it somewhere real quick.
Still fine for me, decent pace. I'm not that experienced with coding.
Yeah,
I've basically done the intro a few times, but got kind of confused going past the statements.
You got confused past if statements, is that what you said?
Yeah.
I see.
Normally they explain something simple, then something that feels really complex.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, the gap kind of widens.
Yeah, definitely. It can get complex very quickly if you're not careful. So, okay, cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that the pacing was all right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good session, I think.
Cool. Let's see.
Yeah, so session 2 is tomorrow. This will follow straight on from what we've done today, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be like, here's what we talked about, because it'll probably be two different instructors.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who's teaching, but I think Exa likes to teach on Sundays, and maybe Turk or Tipush or something. But it'll, we'll definitely use some of the concepts that we talked about here, like if statements, variables, strings. We'll probably get a bit more strings. Yeah.
What was the timing for it again?
So if you look, it's at 7 p.m. UTC.
Okay.
There should be timing, like workshop time schedule somewhere.
Like 2 hours after this one started, basically.
Yes.
It's easier to understand it.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool, thanks. This helped a bunch.
Cool, I'm glad.
Okay, thank you for the session.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
I'll see you around.
All right, see you.
See you later.
Yeah, have a nice day or night. I don't know.
You as well. Thank you for hosting this session. I was wondering if you would recommend any additional resources for learning Python. Yeah, let's see. So one really common one that I've heard about is Learn Python the Hard Way. This is a pretty, if you're into books and stuff like that, this is kind of a good one. I think there's one called like Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. Another book, although I think there are like free courses and stuff that kind of go under the same title. Oh, it looks like, I think this is even free. Yeah, it's a free ebook. Or if you prefer YouTube, there are, I don't know any good specific resources on YouTube, but I'm sure there are tons of videos that you could find that kind of cover the basics, or like collections of like playlists of videos and stuff that kind of walk through things clearly, similarly to how we do here. But I hear a lot of people like this book. So if you like books, this is probably a good one to go with.
By the way, I'm back.
Oh, hey, welcome back.
So how did it go?
Yeah, it went pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah, everyone seemed to get things pretty quickly. Not too many issues. Some good questions as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man. Someone was asking about resources for Python.
Yeah. I don't know if you have any. I recommended a couple books that I've seen tossed around, but if you have any.
I heard some of the last one, so I try not to repeat you, but like there's the Hitchhiker's Guide to Python, which is an online book, which is pretty good. So there's that, and there's the Hacker's Guide to Python, I think, which has nothing to do with hacking actually, but but it's pretty good.
Hiker's Guide?
Yeah, Hacker's Guide to Python.
Oh, Hiker's Guide. Oh, Hacker's Guide.
Yeah.
Hacker's Guide to Python. Okay, cool. Frozen Sandwich, hope that answers your question. Got some good resources there. Cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna check out the recording for the session. Actually, I'll stop with the recording now.
Okay, great.
And see if that worked properly.